All right, before we move on, I'd like to remind our listeners that you guys can support the podcast. Go to saltynerdvideo.com. That takes you straight to our YouTube channel. You can like and subscribe. We have all of our content there, and we also split it up into nice little digestible segments for you so that you don't have to listen to a 2-hour podcast. You can listen to one segment about a particular subject that you want to hear about, one movie that we talk about. It's all right there. Please subscribe, like the videos, and comment, and we can get back to you, and we'd love to hear from you. All right, so who picked Independence Day? Which one of you guys wanted? Jude! Tell us about Independence Day, and why did you pick it?
Because it's a guilty pleasure, because you said I had to pick something patriotic, and it's on the 4th of July. And I love it when Will Smith goes, I caught a bit at a barbecue.
There's nothing guilty about this. This is a good-ass movie.
I love this movie. Aliens? Fucking aliens?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Tell me about this movie.
Independence Day came out in 1996.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Directed by Roland Emmerich. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay. Starring Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, and Will Smith. And back when Harry Connick Jr. did movies, Harry Connick Jr.'s in this. So it is about, it's July 3rd and aliens invade Earth. And it's up to the president, a scientist, and an airman to save the day. And should they win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night.
Take it away. Take it away, Jude. Take it away.
We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. And today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
I want to tell you
I love this movie. I love this movie.
I got friggin' emotional during this movie.
Yeah?
And I haven't seen this movie since I've had
Did you
kids.
get goosebumps when I just did the speech?
You did a little bit, yeah. I was tearing up while you were doing it. I haven't had kids since I've seen this movie. Or how do you say that? I
haven't seen this movie
since I've had kids.
Okay.
That's how I say it. Okay, that's the
cool.
appropriate way of saying it. So I think having kids has made me soft because there were several moments in this movie and I was like, oh my God. And I was like welling up. I'm like, oh my God. And then when he did that speech, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, get him.
Get him.
That's funny.
It was like, I don't know, man. It just hit me at the right time. I was like really, really enjoying this movie. Way
It's like
more than
I remember when I used to watch this movie. I haven't seen this movie in like probably 8-9 years, maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
And that speech used to kind of get to me, right?
It didn't anymore?
It doesn't anymore.
What?
I don't know, man. It's just like
You're cold as ice,
I
Vader.
am. I don't know what if I was like if I was cranky or in a bad mood or something, but I was like, oh yeah, here's the stupid speech. Okay. Oh, go get them.
Show me some
Get
boobs.
them, guys. You know.
Did any of you guys see this in the theater?
Yeah.
I saw this at the drive-in.
Ooh.
So I remember,
Love drive-ins.
back in '96, I was in high school, and my job, summer job, was at a movie theater, and we got to screen these movies like the night beforehand, just to make sure that everything was framed properly and the projector was working and stuff. So I got to see this before anyone else in my town did. And I was so high on this movie. Like this movie just blew my fucking mind. That I went to, I would sneak into the movie while I was working, and I'd always try to time it so that I'd come in during that speech. And it never failed. People in the theater would stand up and start cheering after that speech. It's one of the most iconic movie speeches, I think.
Oh, for sure.
In cinema history.
I think it blows Braveheart's speech out of the water.
No.
Yes, it
Get out of
does.
here. You're wrong.
We will not go quietly into the night.
You're wrong.
That is such a hoorah moment.
Shut up, Vader.
Fun fact, the original version of that speech did not have "Today we celebrate our Independence Day" in it.
Because they didn't want to be too American? Is that what?
No, so
Bill Pullman was just feeling it.
I mean, I even wrote that in my notes. I got notes.
You got notes?
I got notes for this.
Oh my God.
I wrote it's
We're
my
like
seventh one.
professionals now.
It says President's speech did not resonate as well to me. I wrote that down.
That's a big word.
So the story behind that is that at the time that they were making the movie, Warner Brothers actually had the copyright to the title Independence Day.
Oh, that's right.
And Fox was like negotiating with them, but if they couldn't get the rights to it, they had to name the movie something else. Because before the movie came out, it was called ID4,
right? Yeah.
And that was because they were trying to get Independence Day, but they didn't know if they were going to, so they were just using this as like an abbreviation for it.
Today we celebrate Christmas. Doesn't ring.
Just doesn't ring
Yeah.
as well.
But the movie was going to be called Doomsday if they couldn't get Independence Day. So they shot that speech with Independence Day in it and without it. And so they were like, we're going to use this in the trailer and stuff like that. But if they couldn't get the title, then they were going to have to cut it out. So I'm glad they were able to come to an agreement.
I love this speech.
It was so great. Yeah,
It's my second favorite part of the movie.
What's your first favorite part?
I could have been at a barbecue.
Oh, yeah. I love Welcome to Earth.
Where he punches out the alien.
Yes. That's the American way, sir.
Well, it's funny because Jude's favorite scene where he says, I could have been at a barbecue. So like he's dragging the alien, across the
What's that
desert.
smell?
Through Area 51, the dry lake bed.
Yeah, so they shot that at the Salt Flats near the Great Salt Lake in Utah. And if you don't know anything about the Salt Flats, they have these crustaceans called brine shrimp. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that they'll when they die, they kind of sink to the bottom of the lake, and the lake's not very deep. So when the wind kicks up, you smell all these decaying shrimp, basically. And so no one told Will Smith about this. And so during that scene, he kept getting hit with these awful odors, and
Dead fish.
and he ad-libbed that line where he's like, "Oh, what's that smell?" And it was because there was an actual terrible smell there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's great.
At one point, he the wind just hit him, and he was like, "And what's that smell?" Barbecue. I could have been at a barbecue.
That is fantastic. That's a great moment.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of the dialogue. So all the dialogue with. Not all, but most of the dialogue between Judd Hirsch and
Jeff
Goldblum is ad-libbed.
That's his father, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the dialogue between Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum in this movie is ad-libbed.
That makes sense. I want to say this, and I might catch some heat for this, but I want to say that this is Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith at their peak.
Oh, I love them.
That their dynamic together was on point.
Well, Goldblum had just come off Jurassic Park.
yeah.
And this was Will Smith's first big budget movie.
Yeah.
Before that, he'd done, I think, an indie film and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And this was the movie that really launched him into A-list status. But it's funny because, do you guys remember a few weeks ago when we were talking about Universal Soldier, and Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich, the directing producer of this movie, had made Universal Soldier. And so when they were going to cast Will Smith's role, they had originally considered Jean-Claude Van Damme for it. So Jean-Claude Van Damme could have been starring in this movie.
Could have been at a barbecue. You do a French accent.
Yeah, but then
We would have had to talk about this last week.
Yeah.
Then he spin kicks the alien.
Yeah, he's been kissed.
So Roland Emmerich, the director, he really wanted the character to be played by an African-American actor. And originally they were going to try to get Eddie Murphy to do it. But Roland Emmerich eventually settled on Will Smith because he was a fan of, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and stuff like that. But the studio executives on Fox were just I guess they were kind of hesitant to go black, I guess you could say.
Really?
Yeah. And Emmerich really went to bat for Will Smith. And he was like, this kid's going to be a star. He's going to be perfect for this. I'm casting him.
Good move.
Now, another interesting bit of casting news about this movie was that Bill Pullman's character, the president, what's his name? President Whitmore. So originally President Whitmore was going to be played by Kevin Spacey. And the reason for this was because Dean Devlin, the writer and producer on Independence Day, was childhood friends with the guy. They kind of grew up together. And so he really wanted Kevin Spacey in the role, but Kevin Spacey wasn't a big actor at the time. And so Fox was just no, we don't want to put someone like that in.
When did Seven come out? Was that before or after this?
I want to say 97. It's funny though, because once they cast Bill Pullman, they had to rewrite the role, because originally President Whitmore was going to be kind of like an older, almost Nixon-like president.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was probably a good decision to go with like a younger hotshot, because Bill Pullman just nailed it.
Oh, I love Bill Pullman.
And I love that his backstory for his character even fit with that mentality too, because he was like an old combat veteran guy. He was like very much a man of action. He wasn't into politics. And that's all set up in the writing.
He's the Prince of Spaceballs.
Yeah.
I'm an honest to God prince.
He obviously has flight experience.
Yes. That Winnebago, man.
Yeah.
There it is. I appreciated the writing in this movie. And one of the things I wanted to talk about too was like typically in these like big set action movies with aliens and all that stuff, like the human characters and their story, especially more recently, like really take a backseat to the action. And it sometimes is to the detriment of the movie. Like a lot of people complained about like the more modern Godzilla movie, or like with Godzilla, where
it's a masterpiece,
where they punked us. They punked us with Bryan Cranston only being in it for like 15 minutes, and it just like the rest of the movie was just kind of shallow, and there's not a lot to it. This movie,
goddamn masterpiece.
The human, it is. I like it. It's, it got some heat.
Well, what's funny is like, so this movie takes place over the course of 3 days: July 3rd, July 2nd, July 3rd, July 4th. And if you look at its structure, like each day is its own act. So July 2nd is the first act, July 3rd is the second act, July 4th is the third act. And, Emmerich and Devlin wrote this script over the course of like 4 weeks. And if you look at the writing in this...
You can kind of tell they rushed it, right?
No, not at all. Like it's actually like extremely well written and structured.
Really?
In the sense that, like, if you look at the first act of this movie...
Don't you talk shit about this movie, Vader. I swear to God.
I got some shit to talk.
If you look at the first act of this movie, like, it's all set up for what comes next.
Yeah.
And it's so masterfully done, like, just like...
Oh, with the algorithm and the virus and him, like, figuring out what the countdown actually means. It all pays off in the end.
But, I mean, just like the slow reveal of the ships, like, you don't really even get to see the ships until towards the end of the act.
I can't wait to talk about the miniatures and the way they made the explosions in this movie. But
also, if you look at the number of characters that they're juggling in this film, I think there are like 13 characters or so, like, that have like substantial roles. And I think I mentioned on the last podcast that Stephen E. D'Souza, who wrote and directed Street Fighter, he said that like it's you never want to make a movie with more than 7 characters because the audience gets confused and it's hard to follow. But like this movie pulled it off, very well. And it's kind of surprising because if you look at Devlin and Emmerich's track record, like Stargate and this movie are both very well written movies. Universal Soldier, middle of the road. But then, like, you look at all their other movies like Godzilla and stuff like that, and it's just like a mess. So you just have to wonder, like, how did they get this so right and all the others so wrong?
I don't know. There's a moment in this movie talking about like the characters and getting a feel for each one, even though there's this big, like, huge, massive movie going on as the backdrop of these alien invasion, is like that moment where the first lady is in the hospital and the doctor's like, we got to her too late, and then the little girl comes in and is like, okay, mommy needs to get some rest now, she's gonna go to sleep. And he walks out and everybody knows that she's gone, and he's like, yeah, mommy's sleeping now. I was like, oh my god. I was freaking dying, man. Like, this movie hits you in the heart like a good couple of times.
It's not afraid to kill its characters. That's one of the cool things about it is like it sets up all these characters, and then when they start dying, you're just like, oh shit.
It was rough, man. And I have no complaints about this movie whatsoever. Vader, you do, though. What are your...
This movie didn't age well for me.
Oh, really? I disagree.
No, not... So...
In what way?
So, like, the ship effects, the blowing up the buildings, the mothership, all that stuff, at the end of the movie, all looks great. But there's parts of this movie that I just think look terrible now. Like the dogfighting scenes look like trash. They're just trash.
Really?
The canyon scene where they're flying through the canyon.
Yeah.
Looks like some bullshit 1979 Battlestar Galactica show to me. It looks terrible. The skipping over the edge of the cliff, and him landing on his parachute 25 feet away from the downship, and he goes over there and punches it out, and it's like, get out of here.
Oh, come on, man.
I find it completely ridiculous. There's parts of this movie that I, after I've rewatched it, because it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. I used to love this movie. I still love this movie. Don't get me wrong, but there's parts of it that are just super cringy to me now.
Uh-oh.
It's like Will Smith, I'm going to borrow this helicopter and I'm going to fly directly to where the first lady and my girlfriend and my kid are at. It's just like, oh, there they are. Well, let's go back to the base, because he knew exactly where they were going to be.
Well, he told him where to go. He told her to go to that base.
It's just silly to me.
He's like, if she's going to be anywhere, she's going to be at that base.
The whole, hey, we're going to take this 1993 technology,
the laptop,
this laptop and infect this millions of years advanced technology that just flew 80 million light years across the world. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's just,
I bought it. Hook, line, and sinker.
It's just absolutely dumb.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Those fucking aliens didn't know what they were getting into.
Stupid.
When they open the window and they're like, hello.
Yeah.
And then they shoot the missile at the guy.
I just think my brain processes these kind of movies a little bit different than they did 20 years ago.
Have you been Kadished? Like, this
I don't
movie
know.
makes
I don't
no
know.
sense.
I just expect more from alien movies now.
Oh, okay.
I expect a little bit of common sense and sensibility, I guess. I don't know.
Has anybody
This
watched-
movie, it comes off more like a TV movie to me now.
Oh, all right.
I mean, when this thing came out in the theaters, it was the shit. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. I still like it. When they blew up the cities, that was awesome.
You know how they
It
did
was
that?
awesome. But
So one of the reasons why it looks so cool and when they have that like rolling fire effect is they actually filmed it upside down. So the models were actually hanging off the ceiling, and that's because fire goes up, it rolls upwards. So they filmed it with the models upside down, and then they, did their pyrotechnic stuff, and that's what made the fire look like it was rolling on the ground instead of just going straight up like a mushroom cloud.
The interesting thing about this movie in particular was how they chose to do the special effects, because at the time, after Jurassic Park, everyone was rushing to digital. And Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin were, when they were budgeting this out, because I think this was done on a budget of, I want to say 60 to 70 million, somewhere in between there. They were like, if we went all digital, it was going to cost like a lot more money. So they decided to do like a hybrid thing where they would use some digital effects, but a lot of this stuff was done with miniatures and blue screen compositing, like the dogfight canyon thing that Vader was poo-pooing on a minute ago. That was all like done just like they did, Return of the Jedi's, forest sequence where they were speeding through the forest. It's the exact same kind of style of special effects. And so like, I actually which was made 15 years before this movie. So I actually kind of disagree. Even though like there are like some kind of chintzy special effects in here, like I felt like the movie held up really well.
Yeah, anytime you use miniatures and you actually have like practical effects like that, I feel like even though it's showing its age because we now know how they do it, I think it still holds up better than movies that would lean more on the CGI stuff. Like this felt a lot of this like miniature stuff. It felt very much like Terminator to me. That Terminator, like that scene where she's standing against the gate and the nuclear bomb goes off and the whole place just kind of falls over.
I watched T2 just the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen those.
Not holding up very well.
No?
No.
Oh, man. You're getting spoiled.
I guess.
It's just yucking the yums.
Vader calls this movie a made-for-TV movie now.
It was the highest grossing movie of 1996. Yeah. It was the second film to hit 500 million worldwide. I think the only movie that made more money than this one at the time was Jurassic Park.
I loved it.
It was a huge hit.
This rewatch, I can't say that word. It got me. I loved it. I was like, man, I'm so glad I revisited this movie. I haven't seen it forever. And
I'm so glad.
It totally holds up for me.
I felt like I picked the one movie that didn't really coincide with everyone else's choices.
No, it fit in perfectly.
No, it was
better
good.
than Team America, for Christ's sake.
Good.
It is a very patriotic movie, though. Yeah, like it's very much about the spirit of America.
We will
For
not
sure.
go quietly into the night.
People coming together.
Yeah, and I liked it. It had that like American value, but it wasn't afraid to kind of like bring everybody together. The scene where they all teamed together worldwide. They had like the Pakistani, Israeli army with the Royal Air Force all working together and like using Morse code and stuff like that. Felt like a really good like hoorah moment.
Yeah, so in some Middle Eastern countries, the movie was actually banned because of the whole Israelis working with the Pakistanis thing.
That's
in the movie. Yeah,
that's so ridiculous. But whatever.
I mean, if there's aliens, can we just put our differences aside?
I mean, they said that in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of aliens, let's talk about the aliens and the just the concept of how they're
like locusts.
Yeah. Okay, it's just the whole idea of these aliens. Like typically when you either got the Greys, you're an expert on these aliens. You got the Greys, you got the lizard people. They're all
reptilians.
The reptilians.
Yes, get it right.
Sorry. They're all very humanoid, like old Star Trek.
Humanoid-ish, yeah.
Yeah, like Star Trek shows and stuff. But this one, like I felt like they went the right direction where they made them very much so like way different.
I kind of feel like they went like, what if Greys were mixed with some kind of like weird insectoid race?
Yeah.
They kind of had that look.
I like the idea of like the exoskeleton.
Yeah.
Like they would come like armored up, but underneath they're just kind of normal like flesh and blood type things.
It's funny because the story behind that was they had like Roland Emmerich, the director, had asked his creature designer guy to come up with some alien concepts for him, and he couldn't decide between these two different aliens, and he was like, why don't we just use both of them?
Yeah.
We'll use this one as the exoskeleton, this one's inside that. And so he's like, I'm going to have the best of both worlds.
No, I really like the aliens in this movie.
Oh, good.
I do. I really do. I like the whole concept of them.
Yeah.
They're so creepy.
They are. They're
very
gnarly.
creepy.
They are very creepy. Yeah.
I like their ship design too.
Yeah.
The concept of these aliens really works
So
for
did
me.
you notice that the ship, the Roswell ship, I guess, is that what it was?
Yeah.
The one that they flew up there, how similar it looks to that video that's been released in the last few months that they've been showing for the last couple of years from the leaked Pentagon footage.
Oh, the little Tic Tac?
No, not the Tic Tac one, but the one that's like flying through.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
it looks really similar. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Randy Quaid's character
Oh,
in
God.
this is the person that I think of anytime I hear and I was abducted by alien story. I was like, they're all just like Randy Quaid. They're all crazy, and you can't see me, but I'm putting up the air quotes, and all like they're drunks now because that's their only recourse.
They did things to him.
Yeah.
Sexually.
Sexually, they abused him sexually.
Hey boys, I'm back. It was such a great moment. That guy's kind of gone off the rocker in real life too, though, doesn't he?
God,
I was after I watched the movie 2 days ago. I don't know. I instantly went to Cameo to see if he was on there.
Is he?
He's not.
Oh, damn.
That would have been awesome.
Actually, I think he's on the run, laying low somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you seen his videos lately?
Yeah, the one with Trump.
He's off
Or
the
he's talking
rails.
about Trump.
He's got his crazy beard and his
Strobe lights
going on. Yeah, it's like an evil supervillain.
That's amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah, like he's really gone off the deep end.
Yeah.
They're out to get me.
Yeah. He wasn't acting in Independence Day.
No.
No.
I'm convinced that that's more or less what he's like in real life.
My wife walked through. She goes, "Oh, you're watching Vegas Vacation? Isn't that Cousin Eddie?" It's like, no, different movie.
Same character.
Same character.
Same dude.
He's not really acting. He's just
No, he just plays that one.
that's who he is.
Well, getting back to the aliens, though, it was interesting because Roland Emmerich, I guess, is like a big environmentalist.
Yeah,
person.
he's got that message in quite a few of his movies.
And the character that Jeff Goldblum plays in this movie is very much an environmentalist as well. And so they made the aliens these creatures that would just come in and consume every natural resource on a planet and then just leave it like a husk of its former self. And that's basically what all the climate change people are afraid of. And so this movie is like the environmentalist nightmare. But it's kind of interesting because at the end, like Jeff Goldblum, he kind of backs off on that a little bit, where he's
like,
not afraid.
Maybe
not
humans
afraid
aren't so bad.
Yeah, not afraid to smoke, not afraid to litter a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, this is healthy. This is what you do now.
I can get used to it.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to the moon and mine it. We're gonna strip mine that thing, man. We're gonna go to Mars. We're gonna strip mine it. That's what we're gonna do.
We're gonna become the aliens.
We're going.
Independence Day.
We're moving to the asteroid belt. We're gonna mine that shit. That's exactly what's going on. That's just what people do.
Yeah,
man.
we're
They-
conquerors. It's in human nature to explore, take
and,
over.
1,000 years from now, that's going to be our mothership, and we're going to be coming into some stupid little planet, and all the little aliens are going, "Oh God, it's the humans!" And we're going to come and give us your water and your gold. and
Classic Vader hot take.
That's amazing. I hope that happens.
Could have been at a barbecue.
Yeah, gold. Some alien's gonna punch Vader in the face. But welcome to Zarlak 23.
Shut up.
And it's so weird, like seeing the little kids in this movie and realizing that their characters in the terrible sequel.
Yeah, has anybody seen the sequel?
I have.
Have you? I haven't seen it.
We went to see it in the theater.
Was it as bad as everybody says it was?
Yes,
It's not good.
It's not good at all.
That's a shame.
It was better. What are you guys talking about now?
The graphics
Vader, I swear to
were
God.
good. They were good. But no, it's terrible. It's not good. It's not good.
Real quick, final thought for me. The environmental thing. I think one of my favorite moments with Jeff Goldblum was when he was drunk and he was going on that rant and he was like kicking things over and finally gave up and just got tossed. That little moment of him acting like he was drunk, I just loved it. I was like, I don't know why. It just struck me as like really
all the
funny.
acting in this movie is really good. Like Bill Pullman really nails it.
Oh yeah,
Really?
yeah, man. He's like the young, like idealistic.
I just see TV soap opera shit. I just don't feel like the acting was that great in this movie.
Will Smith, Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah. Who was the first lady?
Even
She was
Vivica A.
from
Fox.
Dances with Wolves and Battlestar
Mary
Galactica.
Battlestar
McCormick.
Galactica. She was the president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary McCormick's a great actress.
Yeah.
Like everyone, Robert Loggia. Hello.
Vivica Fox.
Yeah, I like him.
It was funny. Like they let him choose which branch of the military he was going to be a general in. They were like, yeah, choose whatever you want. It's not said so in the script. And he's like, I want to be a Marine.
Adam Baldwin. He's in this too?
Adam Baldwin. Data.
Data. Oh, we haven't talked about Data yet.
Yeah.
He's like my favorite character, I think.
He's so funny, dude. Like the wacky, like 70s scientist who's like all about the aliens.
They don't let us out much.
He was cool too.
Yeah, he's like, you want to see something really cool?
Release me.
Oh, that was one of the
great moment.
that was one of the creepiest scenes
yeah.
in the movie.
For sure.
That was when I really liked these aliens.
Yeah, Brent Spiner. It's funny because they actually went back and reshot Adam Baldwin shooting the alien in the head a couple times because in test screenings, the audiences were like, the alien didn't suffer enough. We really want to see him get what's coming to him.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed that moment where the alien like takes out the whole medical staff and he's like talking to the president. That back and forth that they had is super eerie. He's like, what? We can work together. No peace.
Yeah, and Bill Pullman just stands up and he's like, nuke the bastard.
Yeah.
It's like such a badass moment.
Yeah, it was a great moment. It's too bad that nuke didn't work though.
Robert Loggia took his character way too seriously. Way too seriously in this movie.
Well,
but it was fun. I liked it.
There's a funny story where Dean Devlin was talking to Robert Loggia one day, and this was towards the beginning of filming. And Robert Loggia was still trying to get like a feel for how he should play his character. And Dean Devlin said, "Oh, go watch the movie Airplane, and look at this actor in that movie." And what Dean Devlin meant to say was, "Go watch the movie Airport." And so Robert Loggia went and watched Airplane, and he thought that he had been cast in a spoof movie about an alien invasion. Right,
Like Mars Attacks.
Yeah, Robert Loggia's like, oh, this is a comedy. Okay. And they had to come back to him and be like, no, this is serious. This is a serious movie. Man.
I gotta call my lawyer. That freaking guy.
Harvey
I'm
Firestein.
so glad he died like in the beginning of the movie. I would not be able to stand listening to him.
Why did I just send my mother to Georgia?
Anyway, any final thoughts on this movie real quick from anybody else? You got any favorite moments or anything like that?
The destruction moments where like that first initial like attack on LA, New York, and DC. Like I still remember like being in the theater and watching the trailer for this movie and that iconic shot of the White House blowing up at the end.
Yeah.
And everyone just being like, holy shit. Like that. I mean, that's the type of like this was a true summer blockbuster event movie, so much so that it spawned like the whole disaster movie franchise. Yeah. I believe they called it disaster porn.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, what can we think to blow up next? And but up to that point, all the disaster movies had always been like kind of natural disasters, and this was the first one to kind of look at an alien invasion as a disaster film. And but that iconic shot of the White House blowing up, man, that's something that sticks with you even to this day.
Right on.
And
it was well done.
This was such a big movie, obviously, for Will Smith that when he did Men in Black, some reporter or something had asked him, I remember this interview, some reporter had asked him, like, another alien movie, huh? And he was like, you can't go wrong with aliens.
He's right.
And funny enough, Jada Pinkett Smith was supposed to be cast in the Vivica A. Fox role in this movie. and she had a conflict with the Nutty Professor, I think, so she couldn't do this one. But this was before they were married, I think. So they hadn't even met yet.
She was in. She did Matrix 2, right, or 3?
2.
Do you have a favorite moment from this movie, Vader?
Yeah.
Okay.
He has show notes today.
It's not really. It kind of goes along with what Matt was saying, but I always like the scenes when the ships are coming into the planet, and they get the reveal out of the firewall, and when they're coming over the city, like. Especially the New York one, when all the people are playing in the streets and everything, and they look up, they're like, "Holy shit!" That's I like those scenes there. They were kind of cool.
This was also the movie that started the trend of not allowing the dogs to die. Remember that?
Yeah,
I do remember the dog in this movie, but is that a trend?
So yeah, this movie did start the trend of dogs not dying in movies because it was very blatant, where the dog outran the frickin' fireball and
all through the tunnel.
Uh-huh.
But
What was his name? Boomer? Is that the dog's name?
something like that. But it was funny because when The Lost World came out, Steven Spielberg's follow-up to Jurassic Park, he made it a point to kill the dog because everyone was, saying like,
Is that why the dog died in that movie?
That's why the dog died in that movie. Yeah,
Good for him.
because every other movie was like, making sure the dogs lived. Spielberg was like, I'm gonna fuck with people.
Like we talked a bunch of crap about that movie, and it's not a great Spielberg movie, but like it was gruesome, man. Like
which one?
Lost World, when the T-Rex went into San Diego and like it was ate the guy in front of the blockbuster and stuff. Like Spielberg was like, let's just kill some motherfucker. So that was our discussion on Independence Day. I love. Thank you so much for choosing this movie.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it.
Thank you very much.
I thought it was fantastic. Thank you.